This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
I just want to know, like, what's your take on the Fort Pillow massacre? Was he a war criminal? Did he actually kill women and children?
He was not in command. He'd been injured that morning. He didn't have anything to do with that. He didn't arrive till it was over.
Okay.
That's just propaganda, a big lie. He was injured. His horse fell on him, nearly broke his shoulder.
Okay.
He was not in command at Fort Pillow. The soldiers had surrendered, and then the gunboat came up and started firing again, and the surrendered folks took up their guns again. I mean, if you're attacking force, what do? They started fighting again after they had surrendered. General ForREst has never done any wrong. They had big courts of inquiry. They would have crucified him if he had done a smidgen of wrong. He never had anything to do with the Ku Klux Klan. There's absolutely zero proof of that. No massacres, no nothing. He's never done any sort of wrong. That's just propaganda. General ForREst's cardinal sin was he was effective. Winner of battles, outnumbered 3-1. He's never defeated in battle. Then a battle that he was in command. Never defeated. Outnumbered always. He's the finest soldier America has ever produced. He's the defender of the Southern people. He is our Martin Luther King. He's our hero. He spoke twice to the NAACP. He was a friend of the people of the South. The NAACP, they were the forerunner of the NAACP, the Brotherhood of railroad porters, conductors. He was invited twice to speak to their convention. It's the Brotherhood of Porters, but this national black group had him to speak to him twice.
But the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters didn't exist till like the 1920s and 30s.
The forerunner of the NAACP,
okay,
I'm not sure what
you said pole bearers, right?
The porters. It's something to do with porters and railroad workers.
But I'm going to ask you this about his role in private prisons. Like, they said they gave him a contract on President Allen to use black convict labor to raise corn and cotton and raise hogs on President Allen. And
That's
also
right.
his slave market was the largest slave market before the Civil War on Adams Avenue, which is now part of the Memphis prison industry complex. What's your take on him being a part of the private prison movement? He was
well known for being, even the prisoners or the slaves, he treated them the best of any of these marketers. Even in Washington, D.C., where the American flag flew up, that was just the way it was. We're judging people in the 21st century and the way they did it in the 1800s. It was wrong. Slavery was wrong. We were wrong to get mixed up in it, but the North invaded the South, and the most 99% of Southerners never owned a slave, but their homeland was invaded. They were just trying to defend themselves against the North, burning their homes. We were like Afghanistan and Iraq. We were just crazy in the 1860s. It was wrong, but it happened faster than a cat can lick its, well, you know what I'm saying.
Right, okay, well, actually, fast. Yeah, about Fort Pillow, though. I know you say he was not in command, but I heard from older people in that community that there was a mass grave of women and children who was also victims of that massacre, supposedly.
No, it never happened.
At the fort.
The U.S. Army and the U.S. government, they did a court of inquiry. General ForREst, 100% innocent.
Okay.
They would have nailed him to a cross if he had done anything wrong. There were numerous courts of inquiry. They were looking for things. They couldn't find one iota of wrong the man has ever done. He's never belonged to the Klan. Okay. That's all the lie and propaganda. His only sin was he was effective. He won battles. He defeated the Northern armies time after time after time. He was an effective winner of battles. The U.S. Army goes down to Bryce's Crossroads every year now, and they study his battles. He was a winner of battles. That was his cardinal sin. No politics, nothing wrong ever been attached to his name. That's just propaganda. He was out there in front. He was a name that everyone recognized.
Okay, I want to ask you this. Like you mentioned, he was Dr. Martin Luther King of the cause, right?
Of the Southern people. He was known as the defender of the Southern people. They built this statue in 1905. The South was destroyed. The economy was destroyed. The women of the South raised the money for this statue, and I believe $18,000, which would be close to $1 million. Now, they raised this with the butter and egg money, the widows and the orphans. This was a terribly impoverished area. The poor people of the South, they raised this money pennies at a time to commemorate their hero, the defender of the South.
Let me ask you this, because Dr. King was actually killed a couple of blocks from here, the real Dr. King.
If they had met, they would be friends.
Well, Ida B. Wells also ran out of town. She's from Mississippi. She was ran out of town. Her newspaper office was burned down on Beale Street.
That's right.
And this is a town that's 70% black. By some estimates, this is the poorest big city in America. So why should a town that's 70% African American be paying for the upkeep of a man who was not necessarily a friend of the African American people?
Well, I think he was a friend of the black people. The black people that knew him in the war, he had hundreds of black wagon drivers. They were free black men, all volunteers. They were his friends. He had thousands of black friends. When he died, in his funeral procession, thousands of black people did not have to be there. He was a friend of the South, black and white.
He had free blacks that wore gray uniforms during the Civil War.
He was a friend of all Southerners. He was American. He's the best we've yet produced in the military arm there. If he and Dr. King had met, they would be friends. They had the same aims. They were a friend to all, and they believe in helping all people, regardless of color.
Okay.
Dr. King said there weren't any color. We're all Americans.
I would say 90 to 95% of your Confederate soldiers that fought in the war did not own one slave to his name. Wouldn't you say?
That's right. That's right. People at the time were saying if they'd only known it's going to be such a big war and so much trouble, they would pick their own damn cotton.
Can't say nothing about his
I mean, it was wrong. It was wrong. We know it's wrong.
Let me just make one statement.
Okay, go ahead.
Our Republican system was meant for a homogeneous people. As long as blacks continue to live with the whites, they constitute a threat to the national life. Family life may also collapse. An increase of mixed breed bastards may someday challenge the supremacy of the white man. Now, who said that?
Was that Lincoln?
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, well, he come play. Everybody's come play. This is America. I got slave owners on my money.
Should we tear his statue down? Now, that's a negative comment in my opinion.
I'm gonna ask y'all this.
I believe we should tear his statue down if we're going to tear his name.
Burial. He wanted to be buried in Elmwood, from my understanding. He wanted to stay buried with his man in Elmwood Cemetery. So is it like going against his commands to be buried out here on this busy street?
I never heard him say that.
Well, that's what they say. I don't know. I wasn't there either. But let me ask you this this is a very trying week for America. You know, with the police brutality, people talking about race war, then the divide in the country is very serious. I mean, what can you do moving forward? What should we do as Americans?
I'd like to quote the late, great Rodney King.
Okay.
Can't we all just get along?
This is a good question.
It is.
So what does it take for us to get along? What's the solution?
We're all in the same boat. We sink or swim together. We are all Americans. I mean, there are people just beyond the shores that don't like any of us. Right. They're not looking at black and white. All this thing is American.
We love the history of this because we portray both Union and Confederate. Just like we were at Helena, Arkansas for a living history about 3 weeks ago, and we all wore blue uniforms. We put the blue on as proud as we do the gray, in my opinion.
And what's the name of y'all organization?
We're the First Mississippi Cavalry.
All right, thank y'all so much for being good sports. I appreciate it.
Are you from Memphis?
I'm from Memphis. Y'all pay taxes on the statue.
Think about General Forrest as your friend.
All right.
That's the message. He defended all Southern people. When the Yankee armies came through, they burned up the black houses too. They didn't discriminate. I mean, when the economy was destroyed, the black people didn't leave here after the war, did they?
Okay.
They suffered right along with the white people. They're still suffering. They suffered
in the words of Dr. King, we can live together as brothers or perish together as fools.
It's like when the nation catches cold, the black people get the flu. I mean, it's not fair.
The Zika virus now, I guess.
That's right. It is it's very unfair, but black people and white people have all worked together to make America great. I mean, there's been a lot of people pulling together. We won wars. We defeated much worse foes. Think of Nazi Germany. Where'd we be if they'd gotten here? Or the Japanese? People think
this is the Fourth Reich coming on with all these mass shootings and whatnot.
Oh, it's terrible.
Kind of the night of the long knives and all the stuff that Hitler and them did, the brown shirts, the essays.
It is.
Power. All right, so I'll let y'all be and let somebody else have a crack at it. Thank you so much for being good sports.
When folks start killing, they can't stop.
Okay, kill the machine. Thank you.